Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nic unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you this morning?
I wondered which song you were about to be singing, Coxie.
I don't know. I walk around singing stupid songs every morning as the children wake up, and nothing annoys them more.
It was the parent song.
It was the mummy song. They hate it, but I tell you what, they get out of bed when I start singing.
We just have this ability as parents to turn stuff into a sing-song.
And annoy our children.
Yes. Just stupid stuff. and my daughter, although I haven't seen her much, in terms of overall contact time in the last, it's been a while now, 4 years. I haven't had much to do with my daughter, which was a bit depressing, but anyway. She still does she's 8.5, and she still does the dad.
Aww.
And I'm like, how have you even learnt that, kid? We haven't lived together for 4 years.
That's very cute.
But it must be inbuilt.
Yes, without a doubt.
Just like a parent's ability to sing songs about, it's time to clean the shower, let's go and make it fun. And our kids have a built-in ability to go, oh, Mum.
All the time.
It's
the standard response.
So speaking of standard responses, Coxie, you wanted to talk about...
Oh, Warwick. Well done. There's a tick for you. That's a gold star effort, that one.
And our listeners are still like,
what?
Why are they getting excited about that?
Because he's done it again. He's Chuck Norris'd again.
Here's the segue. So, Coxie, you got a fairly standard response from a trade business, sadly. I hate saying it.
So do I.
But a trade business gave you a pretty ordinary and very standard response to a request you made recently.
They did, and I'm hoping that none of our listeners would respond in this way, but if they possibly could maybe do this, perhaps
if you ever have,
or
you've thought, or you think that this is okay, it's not okay. Don't do this.
You yelled very loud. Their ears are sore now.
Sorry.
But they've lost a customer, and one that was prepared to spend a very big amount of money with them over the next 6 months has now walked away.
Ooh, who's that?
Shall I tell the story? I'm not going to name them. That would be embarrassing for them.
No, the customer that walked away.
Me.
Oh.
Me.
Yes, please. Coxie, set the context before I make a complete balls up of this episode.
All right. So last weekend, the builder's finally out of his sling and he's keen to do some sort of work so that he can feel like he's actually a tradie again rather than sitting around watching us fluff about the house and not getting anything done. So we decided, thought arrived very early one morning, let's turn the desk nook where I used to sit many moons ago, is currently just a storage dumping area, into a bar nook. I'll post a photo in the Facebook group so you can all have a look at the beginning of the process. So, long story short, we have painted said bar nook, we have ordered cabinetry, and was keen to put some stone on top of the bar nook. Now, for reference, the stone is 1,600 long and 400 wide. So we sent out a couple of quote requests, and this is where the story takes a turn. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Coxie.
We got 2 responses back. There are more still coming. One of the responses just sent me a quote for almost $4,000 for my little tiny piece of stone. Now, before you all get up in arms and get upset, all you stone manufacturers and suppliers out there, yes, I do understand, because of my inside knowledge, that they must have been quoting me on an entire slab of stone. However, I also know that means they were planning on keeping the rest of the stone, that they would then go and sell to somebody else, the greedy bastards. So, clearly, I ignored that quote.
Is that what you really think, Coxie?
Oh, thank God it's not Friday or I'd be very sweary. So, the second quote that arrived was a really proactive quote who said, we have dozens of small slabs available in various colours, shades, and brands. We welcome you to our showroom by appointment to choose your slab, and we charge, because these are offcuts from other jobs, even though they will perfectly fit the size that you require, we only charge $500 for that size slab.
Wow, that's a
Excuse
big
me?
difference.
That's a huge difference. So furthermore, though, let's talk a little bit more about this experience. We actually made an appointment. We went down, we had a look at the stone, got exactly what we wanted, $500 for the stone. It was beautiful. Very cleverly, the sales lady then talked to us about what the trades were like at this time and how in Brisbane, most of the cabinet makers weren't working at the moment. So to stimulate their business, they were offering a sale price that they normally only offer at home show time. So it's the best stone price. And if we wanted to order the stone for the rest of our kitchen, she'd happily send us through a quote. And for just $500, we could secure that price and they would store the stone for the next 8 months.
Wowza.
$500. And I can have my stone put aside. They'll store it for 8 months, free of charge. After that point in time, they'll negotiate with you a small storage fee if necessary.
That's impressive.
It's very bloody impressive. So guess what they did? Immediately quoted up the kitchen stone.
Yeah. Here's some more money.
Because we want the same. We want it to look similar.
Customer.
Or the bishop, the who to the bishop? Anyway.
Actress to the bishop.
That's the one. So two very different experiences, one that guaranteed an outcome and one that basically told me just to go and get stuffed and sort it out yourself. Now, the way that could have been rectified would have been if the very expensive people who clearly didn't have any offcuts they wanted to help me with could have simply said in their email, the reason for this large price is that we have to sell you an entire slab. Should you wish to use the slab for other areas, we're more than happy to prepare a quote for you for those other areas as well, or hold on to the slab for you for a small period of time at a fixed fee so that we can facilitate your order with the same batch of stone. Something rather than nothing, so that I then look at that quote and think, A, you're charging me a fortune and then you're going to go and sell the rest of the slab for much the same price a couple of times over. No wonder they've got so much money. So that was my experience. It was a pretty shit one, to be fair. Sorry, now it's got to be an explicit episode.
No, I think we let the poo word through.
It was a
iTunes
crap experience.
Hasn't shut us down yet for that one. So,
and it could have just been so much better done. I'll speak properly. It could have been far better done. It could have been really easily communicated to me what the difference was or why the quote was so much. We went through a very similar process when we did our bathroom many, many, many moons ago, and we had to pay $5,000 for a slab of Caesar stone. We didn't, but that was the quote to go on top of our vanity. Instead, the cabinet maker had an offcut of marble, and I do regret that choice. However, he had an offcut of marble that only cost me $400 rather than paying $5,000 for the Caesar stone that I wanted. So he still guaranteed, the choice for him was, do I sell it or them the offcut and actually get to make this vanity and make some money, or do I tell them to go away? Because that's really what I'm saying when I'm quoting $5,000 for a slab. It's not hard to communicate that difference.
Yeah, and look, we talk a lot about margins and markups and tracking your job profitability and running your business profitably and with positive cash flow and all that really important stuff for you listeners. But that doesn't mean that you don't also pay attention to the longer game and the lifetime value of a client. Now, that's a chunky thing to bring up in a podcast episode, Coxie.
It is a bit.
Maybe we should do like a web session for our members on this or something.
Oh, I love that idea. Can we do that?
Well, we can do whatever we damn well want.
I'm writing it down.
We are the bosses after all, I think. Are we the bosses or is that our spouses?
Yes, very much so.
But we do talk about all that stuff, and you have to remember that customers have a lifetime value because there's that whole repeat business and referral piece that we need to keep in mind when we're dealing with someone up front, even if it's a long-term infrequent purchase like a kitchen or stone or a house renovation or something. People can still become fans of your business and give you referrals and testimonials and all sorts of connections and hookups. So, sometimes sticking to that profit piece can hurt you down the track, I guess, if you don't take into account that whole lifetime value comparison.
It just doesn't. I think it comes back to communication again. If I may be so bold to say, the tradies very often, and this is true in every profession actually, we very often forget what we know to be true isn't what other people understand. So I have a unique perspective in the position that I'm in, and having worked in a building company for such a long period of time, that I understand that quote for almost 4,000 is actually for an entire slab. So in the terms of the overall value, if I was purchasing the whole slab, that's a great price. I wouldn't be upset with that. But to come back at me with a quote for that small slab that I need for my bench top and not explain to me and give me that perspective and that understanding means that I automatically walk away immediately. I didn't even take the time to read the rest of the email, which I then read later after I got over my little tantrum, because I was looking for the information. I'm hoping surely somewhere they're going to explain this to me, because they obviously know it themselves, but can't they tell that to a consumer? So just a small tweak in their communication, or send back an email. Fantastic. Lovely to hear from you. We're really excited to provide you with a quotation or an estimate for that piece of stone. Can I ask about your project? What are you doing? Can you tell me whether you'll be moving forward into doing any other areas in your home?
Yep.
It's so easy.
And those questions are about figuring out, are you a one-time pain in the backside, tightwad, small purchase client?
Yes.
Or is there potential for you to become a valuable long-term client or source of other referrals? Or, imagine if they'd found out that you run a business called Tradies in Business.
Is this the point at which I tell you that it came from my email address with all the links down the bottom? Like, hello, would you not just click on a link and do a little bit of research into your client?
That's the thing, eh? Know your client. Know your client, listeners.
Goodness.
Ask some questions. Man, how often do we talk about this? Or should I say woman? How often do we talk about this?
All the time.
Coxie?
All the time.
All the time. And our members and our clients know that because they hear it from us like broken records.
They do, but it works. And how often then do we get that feedback that, oh my goodness, I put that extra step into my sales process and all of a sudden I'm converting more than I was before? One step, because you asked some questions and actively listened to the answers.
Super simple. And this is, I want to add a bit of a footnote to this whole thing, that we hear a lot from trade business owners that they're busy. And then they often put a 3-letter word in front of busy. Too busy. Too busy to work on their business, too busy to make change to their business, too busy to put systems in place, too busy to do marketing, too busy. And I want to call BS on a lot of that, because how much extra time would it have taken Coxie for said company, the unsuccessful one, to just ask you a couple more questions? 2 minutes?
If they had it saved as an email signature that they just drop down and ask a couple of questions, or copy and paste because they've got them stored elsewhere in drafts. Not even 2 minutes. They could be done in 30 seconds.
Or even more relevant than that, for them to simply change the way they see their customers doesn't take any time at all. It actually just requires change, right?
Yes.
And this is what we see with trade business owners. And if you're listening to this feeling a little squirmy right now, then I'm glad, because that's why Coxie and I do this podcast. Well, I can't speak for Coxie. That's why I do this podcast with Coxie. I don't want to drop Coxie in it unnecessarily. But I want you to squirm. I want you to be thinking, oh, yeah, I say that. I say I'm too busy. I'm too busy to put systems in place, because you think that you have to do all this extra work to improve your trade business. Well, a lot of the cases, most cases, it's not extra work. It's just doing things differently to how you've always done them. And the stone company doesn't need to do anything extra or time consuming or anything to take deposits and hold the bloody order for 8 months.
Exactly.
That didn't take any time. Now, yeah, there's a little bit of accounting to do. Sure, you could argue that and say, but was. I'm like, yeah, but what about the benefit of doing that?
Yes. You've just secured your cash flow.
Exactly. And with said cash flow and profitability, perhaps what you could do is use some of that extra money to get back some time by employing maybe a bookkeeper or a VA or paying someone else to post to social media for you. There's a bazillion things you could do with an extra couple $100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't actually take more time to improve your trade business, particularly when you're starting out with this stuff. It actually just requires you to change the way you've always been doing things.
And that's a whole nother blog post talking about change.
Yeah, or a podcast episode.
Sorry, that's what I meant. I was thinking about blog posts.
Pick the very successful and experienced blogger on the team, and it ain't me.
I don't know. You write a mighty fine blog post, Warwick.
Yeah, I just don't do it very often. Do you know, I've been told by 2 people in 2 days to write a book.
You know that you should be writing a book.
I know, but I can't convince you to do it for me.
No, you can't. I will stump up and do half the book with you.
You can just put your name on the cover and I'll do all the work.
Okay. You heard it here, tradies. Warwick's writing a book for us.
Oh, I've been talking about this for about 500 years.
You think it's time to pull your finger out of your butt and just do it?
Probably.
You know what I want? I want our listeners to let us know what we should call the book.
Ooh, what do you want us to write about? More importantly, what book would you pick up and read? Probably none. But what would you read? What would you want us to write about that you would actually read and find interesting? Give us some ideas.
It would be written in our unique tone. So
would we put sweary words in it?
We would. You have
Unlike
to.
Today's episode.
No, we have to put sweary words, and there'll be Chuck Norrising, and there'll be all sorts of stuff going on in there. It'll be the same Waz and Nic you know and love. I hope you love us. You're listening to us, so you mustn't mind us.
Yeah. What would the book be about, gang? Give us some feedback. And if you don't have time, if you're too busy to improve your business, that's oh, shit. Sorry, I just had something in my throat. It's not about doing more stuff. It's about doing what you're doing already differently.
That's very nice. You could make a commercial out of that.
Can I use my stupid American radio accent?
Go on. Do it now.
No.
Everybody wants to hear it now. You've said it.
It's not about doing more stuff. It's about doing your stuff differently. Tune in next week when we answer these questions and more on some podcasts that clearly I've discovered the reason why we're not as successful as Hamish and Andy.
I might have watched Hamish and Andy last night.
Oh, you didn't?
I did. I don't often, but my goodness, I laughed.
You've
They've
been
made my
cheating on
belly
me, Nicole.
hurt. Sorry. They're very
You've been
funny.
consuming other people's content. Hey, do you listen to our episodes?
No. Do you?
Occasionally.
Sometimes.
Occasionally.
I sometimes I'll put them on with the kids in the car if we go, back before in the Stone Ages when we were allowed to drive somewhere.
Yeah.
We would occasionally put them on in the car and have a giggle. And then sometimes I find them, if I'm on my personal Instagram page, they'll pop up in our IGTV and they'll sit there and listen to it and laugh at us for a minute and then I go away. But that's about all. Do you?
I occasionally listen to make sure that it's actually working.
Yes, but you do all the editing. You'd have to listen, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, actually the most listened to part of our podcast for me is the first 2 minutes and the last 2 minutes so that I get all the little changeovers right.
Yes, I can imagine. I wonder if they're very irritating to you.
It's kind of funny actually, and it's even funnier when Mrs. Waz hears me in my office because I don't use the headphones to do the editing because I wear the damn things all day anyway. So, and she'll hear the way we intro or outro some of our podcasts, and I hear her cackling from the other room. She's like, "Oh my gosh, what the heck was that one about?" Anyway, so you've heard the podcast. You've maybe felt a bit squirmy. Now tell us what we should write our book about. Come on. I dare you. I tell you what, if we get some good feedback, I'll actually start writing the book. How's that sound?
Whoa, can you? Because he's going to write it for both of us. So if you please give us some feedback on what you think it should be about. Because he said it now in this very public forum. I can always refer back to this episode, which better not go missing, so that I can say...
like, oh, Coxie, that one didn't upload properly. I lost the audio file.
Oops, that bit scratched out. I can't help you anymore.
Yeah, that's a bad line. Can't hear you, Coxie. Can't hear you.
Stop it.
Sorry. So, yeah, I'll start writing the book. See, I didn't say when I'd finish it.
No, well.
But I have...
Start with the line.
I have wanted to write a book about, I don't know, blue collar, trade, business, personal growth, family, working with your partner stuff for years. Mental health.
I don't want to make it boring,
meaning of
though.
life.
I'd like to make it...
Did all that sound boring?
Yeah, it did a bit.
How about I just write about cows?
No, that's boring also. Well, actually, maybe not so much.
Motorbikes?
You know how I feel about motorbikes.
You love them.
I do not.
Okay, we're waffling. So tell us what you think. Go drop us a private message or an email. Go to the website and fill out the web form. What was I going to say? I can't remember.
Procrastinate, just do it.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe this is why I haven't written a book. Tell us what you think. What should we write the book about? Give us a working title or something, or what you'd like to see in it. What would you read, listeners? What would you read?
What's missing for you? There's lots of business books out there.
If we writ a book, what would you read?
Wrote. Can we write it properly, please?
Thanks for listening.
We love you, tradies.
I love your ear holes. So thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Hooray.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.